Welcome to the Dyson'S Effect,
a show about everyday situations, issues, and topics we talk about and give our opinions.
We may even listen to yours.
We are your hosts, Johnny
and Theresa,
also known as Mr. and Mrs. Dyson.
That came in. Hey, this is Johnny.
And this is Theresa.
And this is another episode of the
Dyson'S Effect.
Exactamundo. Mic sound nice. Like I'm on mic sound. Like I'm on mic sound. Like I mean it, my mic sound nice. So, I want you to do the honors of us getting right into this topic, because I think this topic, I want you to elaborate more on this topic and where we're trying to go with it and your perspective, because you kind of brought this topic to my attention. So it kind of, I don't know, this is kind of interesting because I was thinking about it and I was trying to look at it from different people's perspective and from my other family members and everything. So, what is the topic thus far?
When siblings that are close in age aren't really close to each other, is it because the parents didn't make them play together, or is it because they just have two totally different personalities? And this was just a random discussion that was on social media. So,
what's your interpretation of that? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Why, if siblings are not close, why are they not close? Is it because of the parenting or the upbringing, or is it because they have nothing in common, basically? So,
interesting.
Because you have siblings that are not close, and you wonder, like, how was their upbringing? Like, you were in the same, especially if you have the same mom, you were raised in the same house. What would be the reason for you guys not being close?
What do you think is the nutshell of that? Like, what do you think?
I wouldn't say personality, because everybody has their own, personality. So maybe I'm going to go with the upbringing.
Please elaborate.
If you wasn't raised to be, obviously your brother and sister, but if you wasn't raised, I guess, in a household where where you leaned, I guess, on your siblings for things, or you may have one sibling you lean on it, but just for all, especially if there was a bunch of you raised in a house, like 6 or 7, it's easier for two kids to grow up close, because obviously they all they have. But when it's 6 and 7, then you may just click with that one brother or that one sister, and in some, there's 6 and 7 probably siblings that are really tight. But if your household, I guess, just didn't promote that, then maybe that could be part of the reason why as well. Or a lot of siblings start off tight and they get older and they go into different ventures into life and, doing their own thing. And not saying you don't love each other, but you just may not be, you may have a friend that you may be closer to than your sibling.
So I want to kind of read it again, because I'm trying to see if I can get the understanding of it, because I'm looking at it from a bird's eye view. When siblings that are close in age aren't really close to each other. Now, this is basically sisters and brothers, correct? Or brothers and sisters, or, when there's more than one brother and then more than one sister, or all boys in the house or all girls in the house, that are close in age aren't really close to each other. Is it because their parents didn't make them play together. So that's an assumption that if they would play together, they would be more closer, they would be more activities. I know some parents, whatever one child is doing, the other child is doing. So this child is playing soccer, everyone plays soccer, in this, within this league or within this area, the soccer league or this AAU basketball, football. So even if they like a year or 2 years or 3 years behind each other, they have a relationship with the coach. So they, so like even if they come home, they're gonna play soccer together. See how that makes sense? And so they're gonna bond like that. Or is it because they just have two totally different personalities? Now, I think that this falls on not the parents, this falls on the family as a whole, because we all grow up differently. But I don't want to put it on brothers and sisters, because I see how socially in a family things happen that the brother may be different than the sister, or the sister may be different than the brother. So I'm gonna take this as a whole question for family. So for example, Uncle Pinto, I talk about my Uncle Pinto a lot. My Uncle Pinto's daughter has a birthday around our youngest daughter, Jariah. And my cousin Tyrone daughter has a birthday all around the same age. And all of us live in 3 different areas, but that's an opportunity for us to be more closer, right? Now, I take responsibility for not, reaching out and, doing everything I can for us to stay closer and all that. I think that's more of a family issue, more of a brother and sister thing, because I could make the argument that when we get, so my grandfather and grandmother, they're from Arkansas. They built a family differently. So they didn't really have a lot of family not a lot at the time. They didn't have a lot of family lean on. Over the course of time, other families started moving toward Benton Harbor, Michigan. So they leaned on each other more, but it was 9 of them. So it's 9 of them living in a house. So being that it's 9 of them living in a house, and it's a generational thing. They grew up when money was different, times were different, jobs were different, the dynamics of a household was different, the mother and the father was different. So when we say, is that on the parents, like, it's not a cut and dry answer. I mean, because I think that, how do we know when and when not? Okay, I got another. This is a good example. I got a friend that I've been talking to. He's not as close as he could be with his brother. He listened to the podcast too, but he's not as close as he could be with his brother. But they're close, but they're just different. They're just different. It's not different bad, not different good, just indifferent. It's just different. I think life pulls us in different situations when we change. So if I'm 5 years old and you're 10 years old, your experiences from 5 years are without me, right? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So if you have that experience, then now that you're 10, you're having this total new experience of a new baby, and you're learning what a 10-year-old is, whatever that is, right? So how could someone be or not be close? Because if you're 10 years old, 5 years, you're going to be in high school before, or right around when I'm just hitting junior high. There are not as many commonalities there, right?
So you're saying age difference, I guess, could play a part in a sibling not being as close.
That in the generation where you at, like, how my parents grew up, everybody leaned on each other. They was broken. Times was different. It's hard to relate like that. Times was different from how our parents grew up, how our uncles and aunts grew up as opposed to how we grew up. I mean, generationally, we talked about it on a podcast before. Every generation gets smarter gets smarter. Is the generation gets smarter than the previous generation with technology and so on and so forth. So if they're getting smarter, certain things are more advancing. So being that we're getting so far advancing things, we're also pulling away from each other. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what were some of the comments that people were saying in that? Because I think some of the comments people was elaborating a lot from their own experiences, and this was a topic that we found on Instagram, and this one topic had like thousands of reviews, thousands of comments, thousands of people pointing their their perspective on it.
Somebody said it's definitely the parents, at least for them. Then somebody says significant others play a huge part,
Yes.
especially if they are manipulating. They turn them against their family. Um, and then somebody said they would like to know because she have girls that are close, but they are not as close as she would like them to be. They have two different personalities and blase blase. Um, when we were little, my mom raised us close, but as we got older, I just didn't like who he was or who he is. Yeah. The parents, me and my brother are a year and a few months apart, boy and girl. My mother made us know we only had each other. Sharing wasn't up for a debate, and being there to help other wasn't a debate either. So I would say esteem stems from the root.
I guess from the parents. Mm-hmm. So this is what I'll say. We're gonna get back to the comments. This is what I'll say. I mean, what do you think about that?
Like I said, I mean it can be both ways. I mean, your parents can make you, grow up to play together, share this and that. But as you get older, like your personalities change. You do different things in life. Some may move out of a state and do this and do that. Just because you were brought up to be close doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stay close, if that makes sense. Like you might say, yeah, that's my brother and my sister and I got their back no matter what. But when you say close, what does that mean?
Yeah, what's your perception of close?
Yeah.
So then building a family changes things. So being that we migrated here by way of Columbus, Ohio, and was born and raised in Benton Harbor, Michigan, building a family changes things. So being that we're building our family, we're like kind of try to create our own village, for lack of better words. So when we do that, it's similar to how I was related to my grandfather on my mother's side and my grandmother. Is basically we somewhat forced to lean on each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Somewhat forced to lean on each other. And the interesting thing is that it also plays a factor in the age gaps, and it plays a factor in how much we do as a family. Mm-hmm. Right? Like when we was living in Columbus, we it's different now because the kids are older, so excuse a little bit of this, but I think we talked about it before when Cooler came up here. We all sat at the table and eat. That was the thing we did. We all sat at the table and eat. So being that we all sit at the table and eat, some people was like, oh. My sister was like, oh, y'all sit at the table and eat? Like, we sit at the table and eat. So that's a family issue. That's a family dynamic that we brought in. That's a family thing that we made a decision. All right, nobody's going to sit and watch, unless it's movie night. Movie night, we'll eat in front of the TV, but nobody's just going to go to their room and eat, or nobody going to go to, watch TV and everybody go their separate ways when it's time to eat. Everybody sit at the table. And what's interesting thing is, even if a lot of us don't sit at the table and eat, in some way, shape, form, and fashion, somebody's gonna be sitting at the table and eat, just like to relax and all that stuff. So our dynamics is different when we build our family. When we build in our family, it's different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said they're trying to figure it out. she thought because they were too much alike, but now she don't know. Different personalities, parents, parents. A lot of personalities. A lot of people are leaning towards it's the parents' fault, but like I said, if that parent, you played that whole time you guys were younger, or not even that, just Johnny's 18, Jariah's 10.
That's a
So
gap. That's a big gap. Johnny got about what 8, 9 years.
yeah, like he's not. Sometimes he'll get into the mood where he'll play with her, but majority of the time, he not. You know what I'm saying? So, but that doesn't mean that they're not gonna. I think our kids have a pretty good relationship with each other. Um, whether the, I mean, maybe I don't know.
Although it
I
could
think
change,
it's
but
yeah, because the oldest are not that far apart from each other, but with the last one, it's a
it's a
big
gap.
age gap.
Yeah, it's a big gap. Well, if we're being completely honest, they are not as close with Janisha, our oldest one, because
Mm,
that's one by a different mother.
mm,
But that comes with separate issues of why um, they're not as close with her, and that's a major factor. You hinted on it earlier when there's different parents. So if it's different mothers or different fathers,
They're all brought up in different
different
households.
households, different rules, different parenting, different um, quality time, right? So that plays a big factor. So how can you be close when you know they may only see them once every, or like how some people get them once every summer, right? It's hard to build a relationship like that from a kid's perspective. Um, so when you're building a family, I think that's thing. And in their process, so let's just say hypothetically, they're getting them every summer. People changing within that process.
Hmm.
This hopefully baby to toddler is changing. They find out who they are, then they're changing again. Find out who they are, then they're changing again. Then they find out what they like and what they don't like. And if they're not building a relationship within that time process, it makes it different. Then they become a teenager. Then the world of high school comes in, which is a whole new ball game. So people change within that process. And then people also change as they get older with their experiences. So I was reading a book about something um about the different things these two brothers was going through. And one of them basically got into drugs, and his brother was basically like he's not into that. So basically he distanced himself from his brother. It was like, that's not what I'm into. I love you, go do your thing. And they drifted apart, and life pulled them so far away from each other for like another like 20, I won't say 20 years till they got back to close and talking again. And they had to rebuild their relationship because since he was doing drugs, the brother was like, that's just not my thing. And then brother became an addict, and he's like, well, I'm really not messing with you now. So, you know, people change when people change. So his experiences in life changed him. You know, right, wrong, and different. He unfortunately he had to go through those changes, and both of them had to go through those changes so life can pull them close together. So I also think that something that you hinted on earlier, which is funny, is significant others. Um, Sometimes they turn family members in against each other. So if you have a significant other that'll turn you against your brothers and sisters, I've seen that. So talked about it before that my brothers got into it with my uncle. Cause this is very interesting. My brothers got into it with my uncle, but it kind of led up to them getting into it with each other, and it wasn't like, well, it did kind of get physical a little bit, but they got into it with him. But then right after they got into it with him, they eventually, um, it led up. It was leading up to this point. It was leading up to when my brother get into it with my uncle. So after it led up to that point, I had to explain to him like, hey, this is just how your uncle is. This is a learning experience of how you had to learn. This is just how your uncle is. You know what I'm saying? This is how your uncle is. Now, as crazy as it may seem, it was over his girlfriend. It was over my uncle's girlfriend while my brothers got into it with him. And it lasted probably for about a good 5 days because it happened, I said probably about 2 weeks. It happened a week before we got there, and it boiled up to the point when we was there for the 4th of July weekend. And then after that, it was like nothing happened. It was right back hanging with my uncle. And I'm saying all that to say is my family on my mother's side, and I'll say a little bit on my father's side, we are all have a functional way of dealing with each other. Like we have our ways of things that may or may not happen, and certain people might get into it, but it all boils down to we family. Like we all, I mean, you can attest to that. Like I done had a few. we got cousins that fight, and like in 2 weeks later, you'll see them drinking a beer together. Like it's crazy. That's just how my family is. I mean, would you disagree?
No, I agree. I mean, just it's the same as with us. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's just how my family is. I mean, I think this is not a parent issue of how you're trying to make your brother and sister grow up together. I think it's more of a family issue because, case in point, I talked about my cousin Tyrone earlier. My cousin Tyrone made some type of post on Facebook. I can't remember what it was. And my brother made a comment, yeah, brother, like basically calling Tyrone a brother cousin because my cousin Tyrone kind of grew up with us. Like his mother used to leave him over our house when we was younger, and we kind of all around the same age, so he kind of like a brother to us. Even Keisha, his sister, kind of like a little sister. Like, and then I think I said it before. Like some of my cousins, all of us are around the same age, so we kind of like sisters and brothers. So this topic to me is more of a family issue because even if the brothers and sisters are not tight, who else can you lean on in the family? Who else can you lean on that's like a cousin? Like I got certain cousins that people thought that they was brothers, but they actually cousins because they so close. Like my cousin Lil Bruce, Lil Mark, all them, they ain't little no more, but all of them was around the same age and everything. I think this is more of a family dynamics issue because let's just say if our kids is not growing up as tight, who else is they leaning on? So for example, are they aunts and uncles coming over to the house?
right.
You know?
And that's another thing. Like, are you seeing that your mom is tight with her siblings? Like,
Yes.
do they
Good
argue
point.
and fight, or do they hang out together? I think that has a lot to do with as well what they see growing up. Plays a part in what they do. Um, I wouldn't really just put it all on the parents because, like I said, you can grow up being the tightest with your sibling, and you both go down different paths in lives, move to different states, working jobs, get married, having kids, and you're not, you talk, you check on each other, but you're not tight. That doesn't mean that your parent didn't do it. It's just that you're doing different things in life.
So let's look internally then. So let's use our perspectives for an example. So you're not close with your father's side. So let's just say father's side. Are there any cousins, aunts, uncles you're not tight with, right? You are?
No.
Right. So on your mother's side, so now let's go internally. Far as your sisters and brothers, who all are you tight with from your perspective?
Just one.
And that is
Gotcha.
your oldest brother, Dashe. So for the people that don't know, you have two sisters. And how many brothers? Hold up.
Four.
Four brothers. right? So you have 4 brothers and 2 sisters. It's 7 of y'all. Being that it's 7 of y'all, out of all 7 of y'all, you only type with Dashe.
Mhm.
Now, do you think that played a part on your mother?
Mm,
Like,
well,
you think that she was
well, one of my sisters wasn't brought up in the house, so that's why
that's
we're not
different?
tight.
Okay,
The other sister is a little,
different.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
So you're going down the list. Okay, that's those 2. Okay. We talked about your brother that just passed.
mhm.
Was y'all close? Y'all was kind of close.
I mean, mm, yes or no?
Yes or no? 70%.
Mm, yeah.
Okay. Your other brother, which is the other twin, was y'all kind of close?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Now, why y'all was not close?
I don't know. I think it's just because he's different.
He different.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
into different things.
Okay. Then
And then the youngest brother, I wasn't going to be close with, obviously, because he's the youngest. I mean,
what's the age difference?
might be 10. No, is it? I don't know.
It's a big age difference.
I don't even know how old he is, so I don't know.
Oh, that's great. You know,
Could just be 5 years different.
Oh, okay. Great. All right.
I don't know.
So out of all of them, you're closest to the oldest. Now, with that being said, I kind of know a little bit about you, but do you think you was closer to him because y'all related more to each other?
No, he was the one that did a lot for me.
Explain for people that don't know.
Money.
Like he was the one giving you
Yeah.
money.
Whatever I wanted to do in high school, I did it because of him. Bought me clothes. I, paid my way for games, and like he took care of me. I didn't have to work until I got pregnant.
And was he mad when you got pregnant?
A little bit. He just told me he was done taking care of me, basically.
That sound like he mad.
Yeah. And I had to get a job.
So he had you long as you didn't get pregnant.
Mhm.
Oh, interesting. Oh, we're gonna have to talk about that next time I see him. So, do you know why he did that? Did he do that for the other sisters?
Mm-mm.
So he only did that for you. Interesting. And your other brothers didn't do that either.
Nope.
Another interesting thing. So, with him doing that, looking out for you, that made y'all close.
Mhm.
So what about conversations? Did y'all have like conversations to build on? Like was he like educating you on things? I won't say like educating, but like, giving you game and talking to you about certain things, you, besides him providing for you, what was other things
Well,
that he done?
he is a laid back person, so
So shout out to my
we
brother
didn't really
Dashe.
have
When
conversations
his
like that.
voicemail is what? This is voicemail, y'all. This is my brother. This is my brother Dashe voicemail. Yo. That's it. Beep. I'm not making it up. That's his voicemail. So, um, he didn't talk much, but even if he didn't talk much, that's how y'all related to each other, though, right?
Mhm.
So, within and of itself. So, the trickle down. What about certain cousins? Was y'all tight coming up? Aunts, uncles, like you got a aunt and an uncle that you was tight coming up with?
Mm, I mean, me and Craig was tight coming up.
Yes, my brother Craig.
My uncle Johnny and APAC.
Yes,
So
and that's it.
yeah,
Okay, because Peggy, she moved to Cali.
yeah. So I really didn't know her like that. I mean, I knew her, but I didn't know her.
So that's the thing. And you said when you was younger, you guys used to have like get-togethers at your grandmother's house coming up, right? And that's when everybody used to come over, right? For the get to play, they used to play cards, cookouts, all that stuff. And there's a kind of a time period when that changed. And you said you was probably around a teenager when it stopped.
Like people, like my aunt moved away, and
people just started doing their own thing. So that
Right,
kind of stopped. Yeah.
right, and understandably so. So I mean, it makes sense when you put it in those terms. So for now, when it comes to my family, hmm, let's go to my father's side. My father is originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I think he had family members in Benton Harbor, Michigan years ago, and that's when his mother decided to go to Benton Harbor, Michigan. And my father didn't have that many family members in Benton Harbor, Michigan. So we had a few, but they so sprinkled out. It was it was different. But the family members I had on my father's side was my cousin Sharon. Was I got an older cousin named Brownie. I got another older cousin, and so they was more older cousins. The older cousins kind of play as aunts and uncles a little bit in my family.
Hmm.
So, and then my aunt Chi Chi, um, which is a different dynamic. I found out my aunt Chi Chi was really my older cousin, but and my y'all hear me talk about my auntie Tia all the time. I know it's aunt, but we call it auntie Tia. My auntie Tia is my father's sister. Um, while we was young, we was real close. After my father passed, my aunt moved. Well, I won't say after. I'll say before he passed. They moved to Saginaw, Michigan, and we stayed in contact. We seen him every now and again. But after he passed, we seen him uh, a few times. But we always stayed in contact with each other. Always stayed in contact with each other. And then when after our family went like through a downward spiral after my father passed, it kind of was rough on us staying in contact with everybody because we were going through our hard times. But we always stayed in contact with my aunt. So my aunt Tia is kind of like a mother figure. Um, she's we so my father's side is a very strict side. Those are the family members that's older than you, and you can be um a grown person and you probably can't cuss in front of them. But so with that respect level, that old school talking, if y'all heard me talking about her before, you can't say lying in front of her because, and I was thinking about where they came from. I'm gonna talk about that later. You couldn't say lying when you was coming up. You had to say you telling the story. Like that's that era of growing up when they had to, you know, really go by these certain rules. But that's my auntie Tia, and we got a great relationship with my auntie Tia. I'm close with my auntie Tia. So that's my auntie Tia. That's one of my things is that like I said, that's an extension of my father. She's an extension of my father, so that's why I always trying to make sure I check on her, love on her, give her something for her birthday every day because it's an extension of my father.
Hmm.
So even my cousins, cousin Yaya, we always been close with my cousin Yaya. Donye coming up. As time went on, they got into other things. My cousin Ronnie, they got into other things. So, and the age difference, they spread it out. So my mother's side, that's who I grew up around. I grew up around my mother's brothers, my uncles. Now, my mother has one sister named Linda. She's around the same age as my mother. But my mother has another sister that's only 10 years older than me. So we kind of like sisters and brothers a little bit. And my other uncle, he's like a little bit 10 years older than me as well. We kind of like brothers as well, my Uncle Daniel. So that family kind of showed us like the dynamics of leaning on each other. You know what I'm saying? Like all of them, they get into it, and that side is the ones that my brother got into with my uncles. It was on my mother's side. So that's the dynamics of everything. That's the dynamics of how they grew up and so on and so forth. So as it relates to my family, the siblings, I'm not. When my father passed, we lost contact with my older sister. That's by a different woman. By my father had a child by a different woman, but we're still close. I just texted her today. We do all of us do a group chat when we just tell each other we love each other. Hey, we need to check up on each other. Hey, we do silly comments and all this stuff. I got that from Mr. Mims, Senior Mims, that he said he used to send out a text to everybody. So I just like came up with the idea to do it because I wasn't on social media at the time. So I'm close with her. My other sister, me and her are extremely close because we grew up together. Now we're not as close as we used to be because apparently I moved, but we're close. My brother, I got a brother that's right up under me, Eddie. He's younger, a year younger than me. We're close. Now the other three those are the gaps. My mother had a brother and a set of twins, all boys. We have about a 10-year gap, like a 7 to 10-year gap for us. My mama had us three, for us, me, my brother, and my sister, and then had another set of three. And right around the twins was born, that's when my father passed. So all of us have a different dynamic of being close. Like, we're close, but it's different. It's different. It's a different dynamic of us being close. So it's different. And I think what I'm saying is that's the family dynamics. That don't fall on the parent because, as you said, your grandmother used to make sure everybody get together. So even if it's not on the grandmother, aunts and uncles, I remember, we had a certain family member that used to stay, a certain few family members that used to stay with us. That was a family dynamic now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, what's crazy? I'm not just their aunt husband. I'm Uncle Johnny. Does that make sense? Like, I'm Uncle Johnny, and they know I'm Uncle Johnny, and they call me and say, "Hey, Uncle Johnny, how you doing? Hey, happy birthday, Uncle Johnny." It ain't just that's my aunt husband. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's more so of the family dynamics that plays in that, and I think that's also like one of my friends that we was just talking about before. Some of us have black sheeps in the family. The black sheep doesn't mean that it's bad, and it doesn't mean that it's good. Sometimes people are just different. You know what I'm saying? They're just different, and when they just different like that, they grow up different. Their perspectives are different. They see things different. They want to try what is different. There's some people that really would, go do different stuff that you're nowhere near being into. So I think a lot of that is the evolution of time with family, of the technology, of each generation being smarter, of each generation, as we spoke about one of the previous episodes, of their perspective on religion. Because we're more smarter now. We're not seeing the same perspective on religion. So, and then once you build in a family, it's different when you build in a family. Because when you build in a family, if I'm already grew up in this city and I want to see the world, for people that's in a small city, it might be crazy to go live in New York.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So if I want to go live in New York, like, we on two different perspectives of life.
Yeah. So it's really nobody's fault that you're not close with your sibling. I wouldn't say it's not anyone's fault, but at the same time, once you get older and you feel like you're not as close with your sibling as you would like, there is no better time than in the present to make some changes and make it happen. Just because you didn't grow up tight doesn't mean you can't end it being tight. So
yeah, like I said before, I tell the kids, even this goes for me, for you, baby, for anybody. The hardest thing we can do, man, is take accountability. That's the hardest thing. Sometimes that's hard. Like, that's hard. So when you say we're not close, like, even if you're gonna be 100% honest, have you done everything to be close to this person? Right. And what's your perspective of being close? Because it don't mean like y'all call each other every day or every weekend or nothing like that. You could say, "Hey, I love you," and you could be close as the best way as you can. And you can just check on them and check on this family member and say, "Hey," because once something happens to somebody, you don't want to have those shoulda, woulda, couldas.
Right.
You don't want to have like, man, I wish I'd have just got, talked to my brother when he needed me. Um, the comedian Gary Owens, I watched a random clip. I don't know how it came up. I watched a random clip of him talking about his brother. His brother was an addict, going through drug addiction real bad. And he was talking about how he was in and out of rehab. And this one time he went to rehab, he wrote him a letter. It was like, man, he really getting himself together. And he was reading the letter and he's crying because in the letter he was saying that we could have been more closer if I wouldn't have got on drugs. Like, and he's crying because he gone now. He gone now. But in his mind, he was thinking like, we was close, but you still my brother. I still love you. It wasn't nothing bad. And him being a comedian, he didn't get into this. I didn't say this, but I figured, he got to travel. He got to go here. He got to go here. He got to go do this show. Go do what? 3-4 shows. 3-4 shows Friday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and sometimes Sunday. So they be busy, and they living the nightlife. And on top of that, if they doing concert shows. So granted, I get it. So when you living like that, it's hard to be close to somebody. You see what I'm saying? So I don't think it's the parents' fault. And this is another thing. I want you to chew on this for a minute, baby. All of us have children at a different age. So at what maturity level we are having these kids at these age? So, for example, when we had our first child together, you were how old?
18.
17.
When I had her, 18.
You had her at 18. So at that age, you only knew what you only knew to provide for your child, right? As you had your next child, you knew a little bit more about how to take care of a baby. As you had your next child, you know a little bit more how to take care of a baby. You matured more. You seen stuff. We had Jariah in Columbus, Ohio. So unfortunately, if we're going to be honest, sometimes we're not mature enough to know what the child needs when we give it to them, no matter how old we are. We got friends that's just not having a baby, and that baby is going to need a relationship with someone. If it's not a sibling, it's going to need a relationship coming up with someone, a cousin, or a neighbor, or something, as a baby, as a child, as someone, so he can have some. So he, that's how we socialize. So if they don't know that, they can't say like, oh well, my baby didn't have nobody to play up with. This is how they grew up. That's just how they grew up. That's just who they is.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's how we socialize. It's how we interact with each other. It's who we bringing our kids around. It's who we seeing these babies with when they go out and play. So on and so forth. You know how we take, remember how we used to take Jariah places? And no matter what we used to take Jariah, she always gonna make a friend. Remember? She used to always go make a friend. Like always. And that's the maturity level we was at. And just think, if you're in a different environment, your child may not know how to go make a friend. Does that make sense? Like, she might not know how to go make a friend because you're in a different environment. You might be growing up in the projects, like when you were young. You might be growing up in an upper class when it's different, when people, distance themselves because of money or not. Whatever the situation may be. I think that this is an opportunity for everybody to take ownership, like, maybe I could have been doing more, right? Maybe I can reach out, even though we're up in age. Why don't I call my brother? Why don't I call my sister? Why don't I call this loved one to say, hey, especially after the pandemic?
Right. Yeah, I agree. Someone has to take, the first step in rebuilding whatever relationship you would like to see better, whether it's with a sibling, a parent, an uncle, an auntie, a friend. Someone has to be the bigger person to step up and reach out and start a group text every morning just to say hello or, things like that. Somebody has to be the bigger person.
Yeah, I'm also not a big fan of everybody putting the blame on the parent all the time. This is the parents' fault if they.
Right, because what happens when you were old enough to know that you and your sibling wasn't
Yeah, like
as tight as you would like to?
yeah, that who not knowledge is given to you at the right time. You're supposed to receive it because maybe you weren't ready to receive it, or maybe sometimes some people deny the knowledge. Right? You want to ignore and play ignorant to y'all not tight. So you gonna play it all. That's my mama didn't bring us together, or my mama didn't make us play together, play with each other together. Like you can't put that on your mom. You can't put it on your dad. Then if it's a single parent, I don't think you should be putting that on your single parent because they got enough. It's how they gonna if they surviving, providing for y'all. The least is that they trying to worry about is y'all gonna be tight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why put that on the parent? Like, I think everybody be looking for a scapegoat to that's their fault. That it's my mom fault. It's my dad fault because he had 10 kids and all of us got different moms. Y'all can reach out to each other. Yes, it may not be perfect, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Make it work. It's better than nothing. A distance relationship is better than no relationship at all. And maybe y'all can call each other every holiday. Maybe y'all can call each other, hey, once a month. Do Zoom, do Facebook, do Google Duo or something like that. For people get in contact. Don't put this off on the parent. Like this is the parent fault because I think that some of these parents are doing the best they can with what they have.
Right.
Especially if they single. So many men are out of the household. People got to lean on whoever they lean on these days.
Mm-hmm.
So I disagree with that. I think it's it's a lot of complexities to it. To say
everybody plays a role in it.
Everybody plays a role.
One person.
Yeah, like even when we went home for the 4th, and I was explaining to my brothers, I could see they got emotional for the He's like, man, but they can express themselves with me. I'm close with all even with my other family member that's going through a life-changing event right now with their gender. And basically they was explaining to me that, well, you was like this back then. I'm like, well, yeah, but that was 20 years ago. You judging me on who I was 20 years ago, and within that 20 years, I done seen the world, and you stayed in that one spot. So while you judging me based on that, I moved around. I seen the world. You see what I'm saying? And, we was able to talk to each other, but, I mean, whose fault is that? I could say it's my fault. He could say it's my fault. He could say it's his fault, whoever it is. But now that we both know that our vision is different through these eyes, what we gonna do now? You see what I'm saying? We gotta take accountability. That's all. Whew, that was kind of heavy a little bit. I didn't think that was gonna be that heavy. That was heavy, wasn't it? So we gonna make sure we text our family members, our sisters and brothers, say, hey, just thinking about you, letting you know I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we gonna do that. I think I said that last season because of the pandemic to do that. But people don't be paying me no mind. They don't. That guy, silly Negro. That John. Keith Hannington told me that joke. We're going to end on this note. We're going to have some interesting story to tell when we come back. We're going on a trip, right? We're going on a trip, and we're going to tell everybody about it because this is going to be different. This is our first trip. We're going to tell you where, you probably, if you follow us on social media, you probably know. And if you don't follow us on social media, it is The Dyson's Effect on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you got any questions, make sure you email us at
The Dyson's Effect at hotmail.com.
Getting good again. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook as Your Benevolent Coach, and on Twitter is Benevolent Coach. You can follow her at
On Instagram,
as
I am his Mrs. Dyson.
Yes, you showed is.
Facebook, just my name.
And your name is
Theresa.
Oh, okay. Just Theresa. No last name or nothing.
Obviously, it's Dyson.
Oh, okay. All right. It's Theresa Dyson. Make sure you follow us, comment, like, subscribe on YouTube. And always, we gotta say goodbye. This is Johnny.
This is Theresa.
And this is another episode of the
Dyson's at that.
Peace, Love, Blessing.